Welcome back. We are coming off of some of the highest inflation numbers in over 4 decades. Headline CPI coming in at 8.5% earlier this week. PPI, those input prices, up 11.2%. We want to talk about it all with Yahoo Finance's own Rick Newman. And Rick, you're writing about this. I remember the early 1980s, kind of. I was young enough to be in a gas line, although I wasn't driving a car at the time. It wasn't bad back then. Well, at least it's not as bad now as it was back then. What's your take?
Yeah, it was bad back then. So when you started this segment, Jared, you said worst inflation in more than 40 years. So I wanted to know what was going on more than 40 years ago. And if you actually go back to 1980, March of 1980 to be specific, you'll find the peak inflation from that period of time. And it was 14.8% back then. So we have 8.5% right now. Inflation, overall inflation, peaked at 14.8% in 1980. So considerably higher than we have today. And if you just break that down by some of the components, energy was the big story then, just as it is now. Gasoline inflation for the last 12 months has been 48%. But in 1980, gas prices were up 68%, so considerably more than now. The story is the same for household energy, heating and hot water and electricity. And that also flowed through to durable goods, where we saw price increases in 1980 considerably higher than they are right now. So I guess I just like historical perspective, which is why I do these types of things. But I guess you could take one of two lessons from this. First, it was worse in the past. And second, it could probably get worse still in the present if the past is any guide.
Thanks for teeing that up for us, Rick. Well, I guess this sets up my next question. You almost have to wonder if interest rates are going back to double digits just to handle this inflation.
That would be astonishing and terrible. I mean, we are obviously in a much lower interest rate environment than we were back then. Interest rates at a baseline were much higher in the 1970s, leading up to peak interest rates of, I think, more than 20% in the early 1980s when Paul Volcker took over the Federal Reserve. So what do we have long rates now at something, what's the 10-year at low twos? It'd be astonishing if we got to double-digit rates here. But this is just frames for us what is in the realm of the possible.